You can't honestly believe that Watchmen, Yahoo, and Deborah did not pay me to do the intro for Whited Out 4 to deceive the masses. The true Israelites are the so-called blacks, so-called Hispanics, and Native Americans scattered throughout the earth. The Judah team has an agenda to make all the tribes Hamite. Matthew 24:4 says, "To take heed that no man deceive you." Oh, and I'm not really Jesus.
The history of marijuana in 4 minutes and 20 seconds. 5,000 years ago, the Chinese Emperor Shennong used marijuana. He wrote about its medicinal values. It helped gout, malaria, and rheumatism. Ironically, it was also a cure for absent-mindedness. Over the millennia, use of weed spread to the Indians, dots not feathers, who used it recreationally. Europeans were smoking the herb by 500 AD. The Muslims also like to get stoned. The Quran bans the use of alcohol, so they created hashish, its use spreading through Persia and North Africa in the 12th century. Thanks to the Spanish, marijuana crossed the Atlantic in 1545. Olé. The English brought weed to Jamestown in 1611, where it became alongside tobacco a commercial crop. Its fibers used for rope, cloth, and paper. George Washington and Thomas Jefferson were both marijuana farmers. Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence on paper made from the plant. The first American flag was woven from marijuana fibers. God bless America. Between 1850 and 1942, marijuana was listed in the United States Pharmacopoeia. And just as Emperor Shennong had realized almost 5,000 years earlier, it could be used to help with rheumatism, along with relieving nausea and labor pains. During this time, cotton overtook marijuana as the major cash crop in the southern United States.
Some of our elderly moms, they ain't ready for all that, man. You know what I'm saying? They ain't ready for this war to get physical. Yeah. By you brothers out here, lungs is smoked out, you ain't even ready. Puff a light. You know what I'm saying? Like real talk. Real talk. I mean, think about it. Like either if it's a war, even the soldiers constantly train and prep for war. But you ain't even ready for all that, man. Everybody's just comfortable, lazy. A lot of brothers are lazy, man. You feel me? Like ask yourself, am I really bearing fruit? What fruit have I buried since I've been in this truth? What fruit has been buried? You dig? And you just an Israelite that go to class and know what day the Sabbath is? What fruit is being buried? You dig?
Who's coming to the truth from the work that you've been putting out, that the Most High has given thee, that thou hast not hidden in a napkin? What are you doing out here? Huh? What you doing? Better get that together. The Lord gonna drop you.
That's right, friend Blake. Put them black and miles down, man.
You're going to die. Weeping and gnashing of teeth. Everlasting destruction to the left. Get him up out of here. Away from me. I never knew thee.
Yeah. And I just seen once again, shout out to Mahal Call. I just seen an excellent documentary. It's called Cannabis, the history of. You understand? And I've always said that if it's ever proven that smoking weed, I ain't talking about drinking teas and eating, but the actual smoking of it, if it's connected to the worship of a false god, such as Shiva, and the origins amongst heathen nations, would you stop smoking? Huh? Man, y'all watch that documentary. It's called Cannabis, the History of. Wow. Wow. You understand? Now watch how many brothers be standing up and say, oh man, the hell with this. It's connected to who? That's like you find out about Christmas and Easter. It's connected to who? Oh, nah, I ain't doing that no more.
And make an excuse about it.
Nah. I watch how many people start stuttering like Uzi, yeah, I hear you. You feel me? Like on the reels, like you better off drinking like tea. You know what I'm saying? Because it's easy. The Most High gave herbs as medicine, so that's understandable. But you better off drinking as tea or using oils. You understand? Then smoking is what I'm saying. If the smoking of it is attached to an idol or pagan deity or deities, and its origin of smoking any herbs, you understand? Rolling up and smoking any herbs was attached to heathens and their customs, would you stop? Not saying you can't deal with it. It's just you can't deal with it in the smoking it form.
Would you stop? Why is that the only plant you smoke?
Another good question. You niggas ain't out here smoking basil.
Poison ivy.
You feel me? So that's the thing. The name of it, Working, I see the documentary. It's on YouTube. It's called Cannabis. Cannabis, the history of.
Excellent documentary. Excellent documentary.
You dig? And again, I'm talking about the smoking of it. A lot of us ain't ready. My print Blake said I got to put the black in mine. I said, yes. Yes, you understand? Keep the order by any means necessary. You look up, and a lot of brothers that justify certain things, you dig, but they didn't got lazy.
What does that mean?
Lazy. Now, lazy, like you ain't doing no work out here, man. You just smoke and play video games. That's all you do. Nobody's being edified no more. There ain't no classes going forth. There ain't no street teachers. There ain't no travelers. There ain't nothing getting done.
Nothing?
It's just you a dust head. If it's attached, if you look up the origin of smoking it, and it's attached to an idol god, that's defiling your temple, because idolatry is what defiles your temple. So yes, but look, first and foremost, look at the documentary. You tell me. You know what I'm saying? Look at the documentary and then do your own research, the origin of smoking it. We ain't talking about teas. We ain't talking about brownies. Smoking. And why is it such a big blowback? It ain't even like saying you can't deal with it. It's just, why are you smoking it? But look at the documentary first, you understand? It'll blow your mind. You feel me? Because me, I hate other gods, period. When that, when you see, and then she would look like a damn transgender.
Exactly.
Is it a he or a she? Oh, man. Right? But we got to get ourselves ready. It's a war coming to the streets of America. You ready to rip a heathen throat out if they come for your family? Can you run 10 miles? You feel me? Like, are you ready? We want to be ready, man. You understand? The Most High calls us to get in order, period. Get in order, man. You men, you women, all of it. Get yourselves in order. Y'all hear the call sheep or blue faggot. Yeah.
Is one of the most ancient plants cultivated by mankind. Hemp processing was already developed in China 8,000 years before Christ was born. Hemp was first harvested for its seeds, a rich source of amino acids used for food. Then it was discovered that by breaking the stalks, they could use the fibers to make paper, as well as fishing nets and up to 5,000 hemp-related products, including, of course, textiles. The ancient Chinese called their country the land of hemp and mulberry. Mulberry leaves were used to feed silkworms, from which was produced the precious silk that only the rich and powerful could afford. Everyone else wore hemp clothing. Hemp is called ma by the Chinese, literally meaning plant with two forms, male and female. Hemp was also the first crop to be grown for use in war. The Chinese had originally used bamboo to make bowstrings. Then they discovered that the hemp fiber was stronger and lasted longer. Imperial decrees ordered that certain areas of the land would be exclusively used to grow hemp. An ancient legend says that hemp paper was discovered by Sai Lun, a scribe and eunuch of the imperial court. To publicize his discovery, Sai Lun pretended to die. He ordered that hemp paper should be burnt around his coffin. Then he arranged his own apparent resurrection and attributed it to the properties of his new invention. Ever since, hemp has been an integral part of the Chinese funeral ceremony known as Wu Fu, or the 5 levels of mourning. This code lays down, among other things, that the family wear different hemp clothes corresponding to their relation with the deceased. The Chinese jealously kept the secret of papermaking for centuries. It wasn't until the 5th century that this knowledge was passed on to other countries, finally appearing in Europe in the 8th century.
The word cannabis comes from the Babylonian canna, meaning cane or stalk, bis meaning twice, with two forms or sexes, cannabis. Interestingly, it has the same meaning in Chinese. The word ma is a word from a completely different culture, yet it means exactly the same. Ma means the plant from which we take the fibers and which has two sexes. For good hemp, you have to look for rich, strong fibers, and these attributes are most marked in the male plant. The female plant, on the other hand, is a plant used in smoking, because all the psychoactive substances concentrate there. It is a plant with two sexes, two attributes. This is something completely fundamental.
Cannabis has been used medically since the year 2800 BC, when Emperor Shen Nung founded the science of Chinese medicine. Wounds sustained in battle were bandaged in cannabis.
Cannabis, like this in India today, it's known as bhang, and this is Lord Shiva, the oldest continually worshipped god on earth, whose sacred plant is cannabis, preparing cannabis by grinding it with a rock on a flat rock and preparing the drink bhang. And this is a picture of Islamic fakirs and Sufis, and they're also preparing cannabis. In the center there's a similar vessel there for straining the cannabis, and the guys in the lower left-hand corner are breaking cannabis off the plant, and everybody else is preparing it. The guys in the upper right-hand, my right I guess, corner there are grinding it and preparing it as well. So this is like a 18th century painting of Sufis, dervishes preparing cannabis, in the same way that it would have been done at this ancient temple site 4,000 years before. And this is a depiction from an article in the 19th century called Orgies of the Hemp Eaters, and it's accounting of a cannabis ritual taking place. And in the 19th century in Syria, they were still taking cannabis and consuming it as heoma. So that makes it a stronger connection with the ancient world. You know, we're talking about a continuous tradition of at least 4,000 years. Now Zoroaster is a major figure in the reforms that took place in the religion that was using heoma, which was called Mazdaism. And he is thought by some to have stopped the heoma rituals, but there's interesting references to cannabis that continue on in the Zoroastrian religion. And it's known as Zoroaster's good narcotic in the ancient texts of Zoroastrianism. And in quest and visionary journeys in Sasanian Iran, Saul Shockhead notes that the use of cannabis for visionary quests was not a way open for all. It was confined to select individuals who would have regarded themselves as representatives of the community, and who would then reveal to the others what they had been privileged to witness. Even for those people, this was not a trivial experience that could be undertaken casually or easily repeated. Such journeys were rare occasions surrounded by grave risks. The danger lay in the very fact that this was the path trodden by the dead and would have to be brought back to life. Certain encounters along the way may put the power of endurance of the traveler to the test. So they would take so much cannabis extract prepared into wine that it would literally knock them out for a couple of days. And after this, they'd wake up and they'd say, oh, well, I had this vision, you know what I mean? And that's like a common theme in the ancient world, is the use of psychoactive substances. And people interpret that as some sort of actual experience, much like Dreamtime with the Australian Aborigines, where they say that that's a reality, not just a dream, not just something that's taking place in your head. When the people had visions on psychoactive substances in the ancient world, much like people in South America and Africa still do today, they interpreted those as actual spiritual experiences, where the soul left the body and went to another place and experienced it. They didn't have a concept of drugs affecting the brain receptors and things like that. And this is Zoroaster turning on his first devotee, King Vishtaspa, who was a major figure in the acceptance of Zoroastrianism as the main religion of Persia, and he did so after partaking of cannabis. And this is a vision of Ardu Viraf, a Zoroastrian hero who was said to have drank the cannabis and then gone on to see both heaven and hell, and this later filtered into Judaism and Christianity. And as Geraldo Noli recorded in Encyclopedia Iranica, bhang was an ingredient of the illuminating drink that allowed Vishtaspa to see the great mystery. The bhang of Vishtaspa was mixed with wine and was an integral part of the ecstatic practice aimed at opening the eye of the soul. And from the Zoroastrian religion, it filtered into the Indian religion as well. And Buddha was said to have partaken of 1 hemp seed a day for the period while he was under the Bodhi tree in meditation. And after that, announced his revelations. And here he is, I guess, on the 1 hemp seed a day diet. And this is Mahakala, who's a Tibetan Buddhist version of Shiva. The use of hemp was spread into India via the Vedas, and descriptions of the 10th mandala of the Rig Veda described the soma as green and purple, and branches of soma were beaten with a rock, are comparable to later preparations of ban with a mortar and pestle. The view that soma was cannabis has been held by a variety of Indian authors, most prominently by Chandra Chakrabarti, who made this association clear in a number of different books. Soma was made with the flowering tops and resins of cannabis sativa, which is the aphrodisiac and stimulant and a nourishing food. Of all the plants, soma is the king. It is safe to conclude that soma is cannabis. And Joseph Chandra Ray noted in the soma plant in 1939, the effects of soma drunk are exactly the same as those of bhang. Soma used to be drunk between eating of food. It is nourishing when taken with milk and food. It is exhilarating. It excites and is intoxicating. It stimulates the voice and impels the flow of words. It awakens eager thought. It excites poetic imagination. It induces sleep and desire for women. It bestows fertility. It cures diseases and was believed to prolong life. None but the strong can tolerate it. It was drunk before military engagement and after victory, for which Indra's favor was prayed for. It was very difficult to acquire, and it was highly taxed because the soma came into India from another region. Cannabis isn't indigenous to India. It was actually imported originally. And because of these stringent taxes, it was very, very expensive, and it eventually became slightly prohibitive because of those taxes. Now, it's important to remember that Buddha, who I mentioned before, his use was not psychoactive. It was just the hemp seed. And it's thought that Buddha was a reformer of the Vedic religion, and things like alcohol, meat eating, and the use of soma were all prohibited under Buddhism. And in the 3rd century, the Indian text Lalita Vistra refers to Buddha's use of cannabis. The prince to the Gaya mountains reflected, considering that he is intended to penetrate the secret influences which actuate the conduct of men. He might, after 6 years, be in a position to save them. Thus he addressed himself to the practice of austerities, each day eating 1 grain of hemp, 1 grain of rice, by this means reducing himself to a condition of overcoming all pleasures. Afterwards, perceiving that this was not the true way, he pursued the contrary method, using indulgences, bathing, perfuming himself, and so on, and by these means he subdued sorrow. And then, even though it seems to have disappeared in early Buddhism, in later Tibetan Buddhism and stuff, it came back. And in their well-researched essay, Psychoactive Plants in Tantric Buddhism, Cannabis and Datura Use in Indo-Tibetan Esoteric Buddhism, researchers Parker and Lux identify references to cannabis, datura, and other psychoactive plants in medieval Buddhist tantric texts, such as the Mahakala Tantra, that's Mahakala there, where the plants are employed to attain health, wealth, wisdom, and supernatural powers, such as seeing underground and flying. Well, those are pretty powerful powers. And so cannabis didn't completely disappear in the Indian tradition either. And so there's a story, the churning of the ocean of milk. And the churning of the ocean of milk is a very important myth in Hinduism, and there's a festival based around it called the Kumbh Mela, which is the longest and largest continual gathering of humans on the planet. It happens about every 3 or 4 years in India at different sites, 3 or 4 different sites. And it's a massive gathering, and it's based on this myth of the churning of the ocean of milk. And in the story, Indra is riding along on his elephant. Indra was the king of the gods in the Vedic pantheon. And a guy offers him some flowers, and he just kind of brushes them off and insults him. And he didn't realize it, but it was an incarnation of Shiva, and he calls down a curse on the 3 worlds. And everybody, so the gods are suffering, humanity's suffering, and they're like, oh no, what's happened? And so the gods gather and they go to talk to Brahma. And they say, Brahma, what's happened? And he says, oh, you need to go talk to Vishnu. And they talk to Vishnu. And Vishnu goes, oh, well, you know what's happened is the man you insulted was the creator of the universe, and you totally insulted him. So what you need to do is you need to get potent herbs and take them to the ocean of milk and stir them in there, and then you'll be able to produce amrita, which is the counterpart of soma. And this is a huge job. And in order to do this job, they have to go get a whole mountain to act as the pestle. And the ocean itself is going to be the mortar with the ocean of milk in it. And they throw the potent herbs in there, and then there's such a big job to churn it, they've got to convince the demons to help them as well. So they go, oh, okay, you guys give it this, we'll give you some of the amrita when we get it out. And so they get together, and they get this big snake, and they wrap it around the mountain, and they start churning the ocean of milk. And there they are again, they're churning it, And a bit of the amrita spills out. And they decide, well, we don't really want the demons to get this after all. So they give it to this figure here, the Garuda, which is a bird man. And he grabs some of it in the cup here, and he flies off. And some of it spills on the ground. And where it spills, this is the site where the Kumbh Mela take place in India. And it's also the site where the cannabis plant is that's thought to have sprout from as well. Because the amrita, which is the soma, dropped it onto the ground. And cannabis is the earthly counterpart of that a majestic soma in the sky. And these are sadhus here that you see here, these long-haired men, worshippers of Shiva. Shiva was instrumental in the production of amrita and the soma. So they worship Shiva, and cannabis, they partake of it as a part of the body of Shiva, much like the Christian Eucharist. And in more modern times, they began smoking it. After the New World discovery of smoking, they smoke it in chillums, and they partake of it. And you can go to India today and partake of cannabis with these holy men. You can witness them along the Ganges River partaking cannabis before they sit down to do their yogic asanas. And here's Shiva himself, blue god, the oldest continually worshipped god on earth, preparing cannabis. He's grinding it in this pot here with a mortar and pestle, and the green beverage in front of him is the prepared cannabis. And here he is with his family. Here's his son Ganesh preparing cannabis down in the right-hand corner. His wife's passing him a bowl of the bong, and he's got his serpent there testing it out. And this is a marble statue of Shiva I have in my home. He's preparing cannabis, drinking cannabis, and smoking the chillum. And this is a sadhu in India, smoking the chillum. And there's Lord Shiva up in the Himalayas, partaking of cannabis before sitting down to meditation. This is an 18th century painting of Shiva sadhus partaking of the chillum. And this is Kali Ma. Cannabis is used in tantric rituals to Kali, where it's known as Vajaje, victory, and is used in tantric sex rites and things like that.
Sometimes referred to as Lord of the Bomb. There are several legends associating Shiva with cannabis, from him making it of his own flesh to help purify the amrita, or elixir of life, to it being churned up from a sea of milk, along with the sacred cow and the moon, by Shiva himself. One such legend states that Shiva, in the midst of an argument with his family, escaped to the mountains. As he continued to climb, he became tired from his journey in the sun's hot rays. He fell asleep beneath the plant. When he awoke, he became aware taste its leaves. Rejuvenated, Shiva made this ganja his favorite food, bringing it back to humanity, along with the art of yoga, a sort of instruction manual for the practice of using this sacred herb correctly. As a result, devotees of Shiva still consume bhang, ganja, and charas, three traditional preparations of cannabis, to this day. It is most commonly consumed in a drink known as bhang lassi, which is similar to the mango lassi popularized in the West, with bhang taking place of mango. This drink is especially used on holidays such as Holi and Shivratri, the festival of Shiva. Even in regions where it is illegal, an exception is made during these particular celebrations. The sadhus, yogic holy men, and devotees of Shiva, smoking in the form of ganja and charas on a daily basis, saying it brings them closer to Shiva. But as we will see, Hinduism isn't the only Indo-Aryan religious tradition to incorporate cannabis into its culture. Coming up, we'll explore marijuana's place in Buddhism, Sikhism, and the Zoroastrian faith. Religious tradition, the proto-religion of the Indo-Aryan people, served as the origin for both Zoroastrianism and Hinduism, with Hinduism developing in the Indian subcontinent and the Zoroastrian faith flourishing in Iran. The Persian prophet Zoroaster is believed to be the first to make mention of cannabis as a sacrament. Avesta, a collection of important religious texts in Zoroastrianism. Hemp appears first in a list of over 10,000 medicinal plants. It was considered the chief religious sacrament of the priest class. It was generally unavailable to the common people. This priestly class would consume bhang, sometimes referred to as banga or mang, mixed with wine, after which it is said that their bodies rested while their minds went on a spiritual journey. In fact, many of our modern conceptual imagery of heaven and hell comes from Zoroastrian priest Ardak Uraf, who was known to go on journeys to these realms through the use of bhang. Zoroaster's own wife, dissatisfied with this secondary shamanic experience, prayed to the Supreme Being that he give her his good narcotic, banga. Back in India, a new religion was developing based on the teachings of a sage named Siddhartha Gautama. According to legend, Gautama, the Buddha, subsided on a diet of cannabis for 6 years before his revelations and ascent to Buddhahood. As he sat beneath the Bodhi tree for 40 days and 40 nights, he consumed only a single hemp seed per day. And while most sects of Buddhism have largely forgotten or ignored bhang's important place in the life of the Buddha, a spiritual movement called Tantra sprung up in the 6th century, weaving Hindu and Buddhist beliefs into a new esoteric philosophy in which bhang played a preeminent role. Bong is said to assist in the Great Liberation. A prayer is contained in this sacred religious text that is supposed to accompany consumption of bong. When translated, it reads, "May this cannabis be a blessing to my heart." The Maha also states that bong is consumed in order to liberate oneself, and that those who do, in dominating their mental faculties and following the yoga or law of Shiva, are to be likened to immortals on earth. By the Middle Ages, bong became so popular, in fact, that it was often consumed before battle, much in the way that alcohol was in the West. They believed that the consumption of bong would make one's enemies feel possessed by spirits. A later religious tradition, Sikhism, which finds its roots in Tantra, forbids all drugs and alcohol, with bong being the only exception. They call it Sudnidan, meaning giver of peace. And when the Sikhs' founder was presented with bong by the Mughal king Babur, he was so delighted as to offer his blessing for Babur to have his kingdom for 7 generations. This Sudnidan was especially popular with a group of Sikh warriors known as the Nihan, who consume it to this day. And while colonialism has largely wiped out psychotropic plants the world over, the Sikhs received special permission from the British imperialists to continue using Sudnidan. In the late 1800s, when opium and other drugs of concern were made illegal in British colonies, a commission was set up who created a report on the importance of cannabis in Indian culture. It concludes that suppressing the use of bong would be unjustifiable due to its ancient religious use among Hindus and the view that it was harmless when used in moderation. return, we'll explore the spread of cannabis into the ancient Western world.
Okay, yes, I am being put on the spot here. I was looking forward to
the scripture says, be ready always to give an answer.
So I work with cardiologist surgeons, and my job profession is a CVT, which is a cardiovascular technologist. So I work closely with the vascular surgeons and the heart surgeons. And I can tell you that the number one disease, pulmonary disease, which is connected to your lungs, are smoking. So your circulation system is a closed system. It's blood in your veins going around your body to feed you. And once you smoke, if you smoke, the smoke gets into your closed system through your lungs, coming from your blood, because your lungs is supposed to clean your blood and send it back out to feed your body. But if you smoke, you are putting harmful poisons into your blood. Now, like I explained to the brother a couple weeks ago with smoking, you can lose limbs from it, being that your system is a closed system. Your lungs can get affected, of course, because, like I said, it purifies your blood and sends it back out to feed you. So once your lungs are shut down, and it doesn't matter if you smoked in 5 years and I stopped for 20 years, I smoked 20 years and I stopped for 5 years, however, which way it goes. If you have smoked in your life, you will get affected in your latter years. So as you are young, hopping around, smoking, think it's fun, it's nice, it's cool, it makes me feel relaxed. When you get in your latter years, you are going to suffer from that. I have patients where they tell the doctor, I haven't smoked in 15 years, but their bodies are being affected by it in their old age.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Their body will be affected in their old years. Keep going.
Right, the body will be affected when, like I said, if you smoked 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and you only smoke. And I hear this a lot too. Well, I only smoked for 3 years, and it's been 15 years ago. If you smoke for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and it's been 20, 15 years ago, you are going to be affected by it. So it's just, and we have statistics to show that, numbers to show it. We have offices that, renowned offices that proved everything that I'm telling you right now. Like I said, I work closely with surgeons. I work closely with the heart surgeons and the vascular surgeons. The vascular surgeons deal with your artery and veins that goes through your body. And your heart, of course, is the most important organ in your body because it keeps you alive. It's the first to form and the last to go if it's not traumatized. But that's pretty much everything in a nutshell, that if you smoke, you will feel it in your older years. So,
and that's smoking anything, any type of smoking, or is that just with tobacco?
Any type of smoking, tobacco, marijuana. I mean, when we get patients in and their limbs are deadened by the lack of circulation, because like I told you, the circulation is a closed system, and it circulates around your body over and over again, getting purified by the lungs, and going back out to feed you. So once that's shut down, and if there's something that is turning purple or dark in your body, that means it's getting deadened, the blood is not feeding it properly. The first thing I ask the patient is, are you diabetic? Because People that have diabetes have circulation issues. If the answer is no, my second question is, do you smoke? Or have you smoked? Or if you did, how long you smoked? How long ago you smoked? Or do you still smoke? Or did you quit? Those are all the questions we ask about smoking because it is the number one killer in certain diseases.
Wow.
And it keeps the doctors busy. It keeps the doctors busy,
So now, sister, anything else on it? Because I'm scared. Because I know I dibble and dabble in the smoking thing. You know, when I first smoked a cigarette, I was 18 years old and I went to jail and I smoked cigarettes in jail for that first 3 months. And then I, sneak and smoke cigarettes here and there. And, I got into a routine, for a little while and smoking, going off. I'm talking about even in the truth. You see what I'm saying? I never was a big smoker. I came in the truth at 20 now, mind you. So it wasn't like I was smoking a lot when I was younger. But, I dribble and dabble here and there, smoking cigarettes, get a loose or whatever. So now you were saying, listen, if you just smoked anytime, it's going to get you. So we better be praying to Yahweh that he have mercy on us after we don't come into the knowledge of the truth.
That's right. That's right. So the ones who do smoke, to warn your kids about smoking because, like I said, if you have smoked, you will get affected somewhere down in your latter years because most of the diseases that we go through today is coming from smoking. Because, like I said, what did I say earlier? That your circulation system, where your blood goes through your veins and arteries in your body, is a closed system. So we do not go to a factory, take out our old blood and put in new blood. This is the same blood that's running through your body, constantly being trying to be built by new cells and things of that sort. But it's a closed system, though, and your veins will get affected by it. Your arteries will get affected by it. When you feel like you're stiffened and you can't move, it's because your blood has been tainted by these poisons. And then you have the tubes in your body, which are the arteries and veins, where the blood goes through, start to build up, and that's where the circulation issues come from. When your veins and arteries start building up all these poisons against its walls, then the blood can't get to where it needs to be to feed you properly. So that's how people with limbs, they have pulmonary obstruction, COPD. You have people walking around with oxygen tanks because they have COPD and they have all types of breathing issues and problems and have to be on oxygen for the rest of their life for puffing on a cigarette or marijuana. So, it is not good for you. It is definitely poisonous. That's what I can say. And it keeps the doctors busy. The surgeons going in your veins, cutting you open, trying to put in hardened tubes in you. If you don't have any good things to take from somewhere to put somewhere, they put in fake tubes in you so that taking out the rolling tube and putting in a fake tube. If you want to go through that in your life, because you think, like I said, you're young, you're smoking, you're doing this, and you're thinking nothing's wrong with you, it will catch up with you.
Well, praise the Lord to the Most High, sister. We appreciate your testimony and enjoy the rest of the class in your evening. Well, praise the Lord to the Most High, and I've always said that if it's ever proven that smoking weed, I ain't talking about drinking teas and eating, but the actual smoking of it, if it's connected to the worship of a false god, such as Shiva, and the origins amongst heathen nations, would you stop smoking? Huh?